the Canby tonight to be able to have not only some bands, but we have an author in the house. I don't know if you guys have heard of him. Chris Walter's here. And we're really excited to have him. He's going to do a reading for you. Of course, he's got lots of books and all sorts of merch to sell, so, you know, go check it out and buy his wares, and then stick around after, because we're going to have a rock show. Thanks, Ray. Anyways, please give a warm, Canby welcome to Chris Walter.
Hey, everybody. Is it okay if I fuck with these pedals here? I can hardly resist, you know what I mean? Anyway, I want to talk a little bit about writing. Just kidding. Do we have any authors in the house? How about liars? Do we have any liars? Everybody told a lie. Okay, potentially then you're all writers. So all you need to do to write a book is you tell a lie, then you back it up with another lie. It's really like, you know, it's just lying. That's really all it is. And sometimes the best lies you can pull off are the ones that actually have some sort of base in reality. If you can do that, if you can tie it into a real life event, it makes it seem a lot more credible, a lot more believable. And that's what I did with this part I'm going to read to you, because it ties in something that is fictitious with something that actually happened. And that thing that actually happened will probably it might even get your attention, but it's something that I remember, and it's something you might remember too. So anyways, I'm going to read this part, and this is about two drug addicts on a bus, and they stop and they get off in Portage la Prairie to smoke some crack, and they get back on the bus. Well, and then that's where our story picks up. Okay, and actually they're still outside the bus. And the main guy in the story, his name is Dragon, and he met another guy, a French-Canadian, on the bus, and his name is Benny. Now these guys are in Portage la Prairie. It's a population of about 12. Anyway, they're standing behind the bus depot getting high. Dragon blew out the smoke and a fire engine roared through his head, bells ringing loudly. When the noise subsided a little, he focused on Benny. I have a tiny bit of dope, but it'll be gone soon, and then I'll be dope sick. He shrugged helplessly. Hey, maybe the guy who's talking over here would like to come up and help me read. Okay. I thought it might be something like that, Benny said with disgust. Hey, let's smoke this shit and get back on the bus before they leave without us. I forgot to tell you, my French-Canadian accent is probably the worst you've ever heard. Anyway, the thought of being stranded in Portage la Prairie straightened the pair out a little. They finished the rock and got back on the bus, certain the other passengers knew they were high. Twitching and tweaking, they took their seats, too gibble to even look at each other. Dragon was already regretting his decision to get high. At last the bus got rolling. Dragon managed to get his racing heartbeat under control and did his best to ignore the little white specks he saw on the floor. Benny fidgeted nervously in his aisle seat. Fuck, he said, glancing around at the other passengers. I always get scared around this part of Manitoba. Just thinking about that man what got his head cut off a few years ago frightens me. How could anyone do something like that to somebody on a bus? Scary shit, man. Huh? What the fuck are you talking about? Asked Dragon, unnerved. A man got his head cut off? What do you mean? He didn't like the sound of this at all. You do not remember hearing about that on the news? Said Benny, amazed that anyone could have missed such a sensational story. Had Dragon been hiding in a cave somewhere? Nope, I never heard nothing. I don't listen to the news, said Dragon, wishing that he could rewind the conversation so he didn't have to learn what Benny was about to tell him. Wow, I thought everybody in the world knew about that psycho who stabbed and beheaded an innocent passenger on the Greyhound bus, said Benny, his eyes as wide as saucers. The bus was going to this part of the country in the middle of the night when one of the passengers suddenly jumped up and stabbed the guy next to him with a big hunting knife. He just kept stabbing and stabbing the poor guy, and there was nothing nobody could do about it. The psycho even ate parts of the poor motherfucker. Holy fuck, said Dragon, his voice hushed, the blood draining from his face. How come I didn't hear about that? His eyes narrowed. If you're bullshitting me, I swear to God. Shh, said Benny, raising his finger to his lips. eyes popping out. He looked around to make sure no one was listening before continuing. I'm not lying, I promise. It was all over the news. The bus driver, he stopped the bus and he get the passenger off, but the psycho was still in there with the body for hours. He just carried the head to the front door where the passengers could see him. He stopped, too horrified to continue. Eep, squeaked Dragon. What if somebody on this bus is just waiting till dark so they can stab us? I don't want anybody to cut my head off and carry it around like a bowling ball. He stuck a quick glance at the passengers across the table. The man in the window seat looked like a serial killer. His glasses and comfy sweater were just a disguise, and would leap up under cover of darkness to stab and slash. Dragon could feel the blade plunging into his body. That won't happen again, will it? Benny asked fearfully. I would have a heart attack if somebody snuck up on me right now. Normally, they would have been able to laugh this off, but the Rock had launched their paranoia into hyperdrive. Dragon was so frightened that he hit his head between his knees. That guy across the aisle is just waiting for us to go to sleep so he can kill us, he whimpered. Summoning every ounce of courage, Dragon glanced across the aisle again. The man was just watching them. He just knew. Then something else occurred to Dragon. Something so awful that he could barely wrap his head around it. He turned to Benny. You know, he said, his voice a terrified whisper. I heard they didn't even take that bus off the road. They just cleaned up the blood and painted a new number on it. Benny sat there and quietly digested Dragon's words, his face whiter than the finest Bolivian blow. After a long moment, he finally found the courage to speak. Then you mean this might be the murder bus? Croaked Dragon, his eyes popping out. He'd never been so frightened in his life. At that moment, the washroom door swung open and a man stepped out. Hack! Benny and Dragon screamed in unison. Benny threw his hands over his eyes. He couldn't bear to look. The passenger, an old duffer with gray hair and pronounced osteoporosis, looked down at the terrified Eggs. What the heck is wrong with you bums? I don't know what you guys are on, but you better smarten up or I'm going to tell the driver to put you off. He glowered fiercely, unimpressed with his scruffy fellow passengers. Benny took his hands from his face and embarrassed. Sorry, we thought you were a psycho killer, blurted Dragon, his eyes wild with fear. By now he'd convinced himself that every passenger on the bus was a raging maniac with a 12-inch butcher knife. He pictured the man across the aisle swinging Benny's severed head by the hair, blood spurting forcefully from the jagged stump. A dribble of urine escaped down his leg. He literally scared the piss out of himself. What the heck? Said the elderly coffin dodger. You boys are on drugs, and I'm going to tell the driver. He stomped up the aisle towards the front, his skinny old butt twitching indignantly. And we're almost done now. Shit, what do we do if the bus driver search us? Worried Benny. I might have a little bit of that rock left somewhere. The new problem pushed other fears to the back burner. Well, they didn't want their heads cut off. They didn't want to get busted either. Dragon peered up the aisle and saw the old geezer talking to the bus driver, gesticulating wildly and spraying spittle all over the place. Shit, said Dragon in a very small voice, his eyes trapped and haunted. Maybe we should have smoked that rock. Anyway, I want to thank Amber for bringing me out, you and you guys for coming here and buying my shit. I mean, it keeps me from having a real job, if you can believe that. I mean, it's marginally above better working than wages at McDonald's, but I don't have to flip no fucking hamburgers, and I really appreciate that. Thank you very much.